With me from Abercrombie Investment Management, it is Liston Meintjies, because never mind all the stuff that we've just spoken about with Sasha Narishkin and macroeconomic trends and all sorts of other things. Earnings season is upon us, not only in the United States of America, but importantly, it's starting in South Africa this week as well. So let's have a preview of what we might expect from some of the big companies listed on the JSE Securities Exchange. Liston, welcome to the show. The United States have got 92 companies reporting this week.
No, that's today.
It's just today?
Just today. It's another 154 tomorrow, 200 and something on Wednesday. It's a very busy week.
Busy.
I've got all of them listed on this computer to my right.
I don't think we've got time to do that, but I mean, some of the big ones, obviously, very busy time for broadcasters. We're going to have to focus on a few less, but I think we've got BHP Billiton and Vodacom and a couple of others coming out in the next few days.
Yeah.
What are you focusing on?
Well, again, I firstly want to see what's happening in the United States. I think that is important, and as you said, it's a plethora of information. But we saw JP Morgan on Friday, we're getting Morgan Stanley today, we'll get Goldman Sachs tomorrow. And again, the way
they mirror the JP Morgan's numbers, you know, the Goldman Sachs's of this world and the Morgan Stanleys, because those numbers, I mean, despite the fact they're going to lose $6 billion from this extraordinary trading loss, they've still come out with these stunning numbers.
Yeah, well, again, I think a lot of people are now saying this, that, you know, that the worst has been seen for the financials, and it may still take some time to get back. But JP Morgan think that they can do $30 billion of profit this year. Now, I don't want to spell that out as to how many houses that might build in South Africa if they gave it all to us. So it certainly is important. The other big one that comes out tomorrow is Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be very spectacular. By the expectation, the earnings are going to go from $1.17 to $1.19. Now, that's not the stuff of which great bull markets are made.
No.
But by contrast, and as we've been saying, it's not the stuff of which great bear markets are made either. So I think we're for steady as she goes, and we're looking for one or two surprises, towards the upside. Remember, the American companies are battling against a strong dollar. It sounds horrible to say that, but you know, whatever profits they've made in Europe are lower by a good 15% in terms of the currency compared to a year ago.
Well, this is very important, especially with a company like Coca-Cola, which is obviously in every single country in the world. How much of its money is made outside of the United States of America? Have you any idea, even a rough guess? I
am of the opinion that it's about 50-50. Yeah, and again, it is one of the world's most recognised brands. So again, you know, if they're having difficulty with the dollar, then let's look at that. As I said, bring it back home, and I think before we get to Billiton, what is coming through tomorrow is Rio Tinto's production numbers, and then on Wednesday, Billiton's production numbers. These are not profits, but they give you a pretty good indication, you know, of where we're going and what we should be looking at and for.
Yeah, Wednesday, BHP Billiton quarterly update, and of course over the last few years, in fact, it's been every single quarter. It's been record iron ore, record this, record that. Do you think that is going to be a trend that is broken on Wednesday? No,
the volumes are going to probably still be records because they have new items coming on stream, some of which are just starting. But so what I'm saying is we want to see Rio Tinto tomorrow, but BHP Billiton, largely because it will also give you a handle on Anglos. Remember, the big difference between Billiton and Anglos is that Billiton has energy, has oil in particular, and I think that's going to come out better for them than some of the bits in Anglos. But if we look at the iron ore side, certainly the copper, the price has been down by about 20%. Now remember, a few years ago, iron ore was set on an annual basis, so we've only had traded iron ore prices for the last couple of years. And it is still a question as to how much of the lower prices are going to actually feed through as to how much is still being done on contract. But I think the message is plain, the profits will be down. So the real test is going to be how much down. Then the first true result of that type is going to be Kumba, but that's very well signalled. They've already told us it's going to be between 17 and 22% down. I think most people are getting ready for that. When we move on to the financials in South Africa, which will also be coming up a bit further.
Before you get on to that, actually, just as a fund manager, which you are, I mean, is BHP Billiton the one that we go for if we want to be exposed to a diversified miner, simply because of its more balanced portfolio, do you think, of commodities?
Well, I tend to think that, but again, it's always a question of the price relative. So, if you draw the graph of Billiton's price relative to that of Anglo's, you can normally see when one is cheap and one is expensive. And by the way, it correlates very closely with what the oil price in dollars is doing versus the platinum price in dollars, because Anglo's is big in platinum and Billiton hasn't got any.
Well, then you have to go for Billiton, obviously. Price PE multiples out of the window, but just looking at it as a layman, you have to go with Billiton.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is if you look at the price relative of Billiton to Anglo's, you'll find that it is not yet quite accommodating that. So yes, I would probably still at this stage be favouring Billiton over Anglo's just in the short run.
Let's go on to the financials now, which you alluded to.
Yeah, well again, what we've said is we've seen the ABSA story, and the real test there is does it follow through into the other companies? And certainly, for the life of me, I can't see that it's an isolated situation to ABSA. The growth in lending is just not there to provide the continued stimulus. The repayments, because the economy's tightened up more, so people getting back onto paying their mortgages is not really going to come through in any significant way this year. So I tend to think that some of the banking results will be a little more disappointing than the market itself is indicating.
There was you talk about it not being an isolated case, and there was a chap on CNBC International this morning around about 7:30 called Gartner. I think he's got a newsletter called Gartner Letters. He says there's never just one cockroach. He was talking about LIBOR. There's never just one cockroach or one rat. There's a few of them around. So you think to say there might be a few banking cockroaches in South Africa, apart from ABSA, if I can call them that.
Well, again, just looking at Standard Bank, now they were one of the parties in a loan to Dubai, which has gone sour, and it's a loan of something like $10 billion. And now they're trying to renegotiate, and there's all kinds of problems. But I would think that the auditors will have to say that this one is under threat, under question, and they'll have to make a provision for that. So I think, yes, it is impacting. It may not come from South Africa, it may not be for the same reasons, but I think that definitely there's going to be some kind of problem arising in each of the ones. Some less so than others, because there's some very interesting differences in business model. But I would certainly say that the problems that ABSA is explaining are common to all.
Okay, Liston, we'll get these results out the way over the next few weeks, and we'll come back and maybe do an analysis of all the results that have come out. Some people are saying that results are going to plateau. Some people even saying there might be a sort of a mini result shock from the JSE, but that'll be in a few weeks' time. Thanks so much for your time this morning.